All right, so let's have a look at this one in a little more depth because, like I said, it's quite interesting. Now, most rock and roll solos, unlike say jazz, are built upon a chordal structure of usually no more than 3 or 4 chords, sometimes less, sometimes one. The idea being that it's the soloist's time to shine, to carry and create the melodies for anywhere from 30 seconds to a couple of minutes. In rock music, you don't want to get too involved in the underlying chordal structures behind the solo, unless you're like a prog rock band, I suppose, because its sole purpose is to be the rhythmic driver of the solo. Complicate it too much, and it'll just take away from the solo and could be rather distracting to the listener. So that said, despite whether the main body of the song has complicated chord changes galore, the solos themselves are generally built over a rather simple chord progression. Now, I have an adequate knowledge of theory, but I'm certainly no expert. If music theory was a 4-year university degree, I'd still have a few years to go, I think. That said, if I nail this analysis from a standpoint of theory, yay me, I guess. If not, I would appreciate your input with regards to where I may have erred. Now, and I've heard this before, and I don't know if it's true because I don't actually play any other instrument other than the guitar. But rock soloing on the guitar is unique in that you can solo in one key and stay in that key despite numerous chordal changes happening in the underlying rhythm. Like I said, I don't know if that's true, but it's certainly true. But whether it doesn't apply to other instruments, I'm not sure. That's as long as none of those chord changes imply an actual change of key in the song itself. Were you improvising or composing over this progression, you certainly could choose to chase these chordal changes throughout your solo and get into modal scales and chordal tones and whatnot. This happens in jazz a lot, but it's not a necessity in rock and roll music. Soloing in the one key keeps things simple, and simplicity in this regard is a good thing. Like I said, unless you're a jazz guitarist, I think it would drive you nuts. I hate chasing chords. I can't wrap my head around jumping all over the neck like that. Way too much anxiety. In 4 seconds, I've got to be here in G major and working in the Mixolydian mode. And then 4 seconds after that, I have to be in A minor working in the Lydian mode. And then I have to go back to B minor for a little bit more of the Aeolian mode. And then 4 seconds later, I have to be to D major for the Mixolydian mode again, so on and so forth. Do your head in. There's a very good reason that jazz soloists are usually quite mad. It's all that anxiety. God. Actually, I'm quite jealous of those players. They're truly amazing. I only wish that I could play with that kind of expression, knowledge, on the fly and freedom. Regardless, by keeping our solos in one key, and if we're lucky in one scale, it helps to keep things simple, at least in that regard. And it gives you time to focus on other things like phrasing and vibrato and bends and your note choice and licks you might want to use, so on and so forth. Without bogging yourself down too much with a head full of theory while you're trying to play. So now, how does this apply to the solo to Hotel California, you may ask? Well, like I said, solos are usually constructed over rather simple underlying rhythm patterns. Just a few chords, like I said, 3, 4, 2. This is where the solo to Hotel California is very different than most rock and roll solos. There are a total of 8 chord changes going on beneath this solo, and a few of those chords, 3 of them, are quite unusual to solo over, at least in rock and roll music. The whole solo's tonal center stays in B minor, but some of these chord changes have notes that just do not fit in the key of the song as far as soloing over them goes. Now, like I said, an experienced theory-headed soloist composing or improvising over this progression could chase these chords within the solo, but that's not what Don Felder and Joe Walsh did. They're sticking mostly within the B minor boxes, but adjusting the B minor scale whenever these unusual chords appear. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's walk ourselves through this solo right from the very beginning and see what Don Felder had in mind when he was working on this solo. All right, let's have a look at this one. Going to show you the 8 chords that we're going to be soloing over. We're in standard tuning. The key of Hotel California is B minor, and that's the first of the 8 chords that we're going to be looking at. There's a lot of guitars going on the studio version of Hotel California. There's finger-picked acoustics and 12 strings, and there's electric guitars playing melody lines. There's another electric guitar playing chords up here at the 7th fret with a capo at the 7th fret. I can't put a capo on my 7th fret because I'm going to be playing some lead lines and the capo will get in the way. So I'm going to recreate these chords just using my index as a capo, which makes some of them a little trickier to play, but we'll get it done. And so 2 of them in particular we have to be careful soloing over because they have notes in them that do not fit in the B minor scale. And we're mostly using the B natural minor scale in this solo, except for a couple of occasions. Let me just show you the B natural minor scale. That's the B natural minor scale. So the solo starts in B minor. Easy enough. And now we're into our first chord that we have to be careful of. F sharp 7, F sharp dominant 7. And that is, we're on the 9th fret of the A, the 8th fret, 8th fret of the D, 9th fret of the G, 7th fret of the B. So we got to watch that chord. Now we're into A sus2. And that's basically barring the 7th fret. And then grabbing the 9th of the G, 10th of the B. And now here's our other chord that we have to be careful of, E9. And that's barring the 7th fret and getting my pinky up here at the 11th of the A and back here on the 9th of the D. And then it gets easy. Then we're into G major, then D, then E minor, and then back to F sharp 7. So when we're soloing over the B minor, the A sus2, the G major, the D, and the E, we can stay in the B natural minor scale. So let's start the song. So that's fine. That's B natural minor, and at this point, the chord changes to F sharp 7. And he grabs that note right out of the F sharp 7 chord, that A sharp right there. The F sharp 7, the dominant note there is going to be your F, but the note that gives that chord its flavor is that one. And so he emphasizes that, he hammers right on it. And that note is not in the B minor scale. So we need a B minor scale, unless we want to go start chasing chords and getting into modal play and chordal tones and whatnot. We need a B minor scale that has that note in it. Thankfully there is one, the B harmonic minor. Sorry. Right there. So he switches into the B harmonic minor at this point, and before the chord changes from F sharp 7 to A sus, he hits it again and bends up to it. And now we're into A sus2. And this time he hits that note again, but this time only as a passing note. He doesn't put any emphasis on it. And now we're into the E9. And that note right there that he's bending up to, again, is not in the B minor scale. So again, we need another scale that has that note and not that note. Because if you hit that note over E9, it's going to sound bad. So we need that note. Thankfully, there's a scale that has that note in the B minor, and that is the B Dorian mode, or the B Dorian scale. right there. So when he bends up to that note, it's over the E9. That note right there. And now the chords change to the three that are back into the B minor. G, D, and E minor. And now we're back into the B natural minor scale. That's all B natural minor. And now Joe Walsh comes in. Now, at this point in the solo, it's back, he's soloing over the F sharp 7 again, but he's not emphasizing that note the way Don Felder did. He's just bending this, letting it ring, and then sliding up the neck. So he's not really emphasizing that note, though he could if he wanted to. But he's basically just staying away from that note, because that note won't work. So he slides up. And again, there we are again with another note, this time from the E9. Back into the Dorian, because he's soloing over the E9, so he's emphasizing that note. And now we're back into G, D, E, and he finishes the rest of his solo in the B natural minor scale. And that note, again, is over the F sharp 7, and that's from the harmonic minor. And now we're back into the natural minor again. And that's all natural minor. And now we're into the first harmonized run. And that's straight up the pentatonic of the B minor. And the harmony to that is in thirds and fourths, which is kind of interesting. He didn't just stick it in thirds. He must have been smoking something that day, but it works beautifully. But yeah, very odd, thirds and fourths. So then we're into, we're basically coming into the final little triad section. And that's all B natural minor. And now we're into... And those are interesting. They are, well, it's wrong actually, but I did my performance and I did it that way, playing these little triads like arpeggios, little arpeggiated triads. And then I watched a video of Don Felder explaining how they're supposed to be played. And he said most people play them wrong, and I played them wrong. They're actually pull-offs. And but I had already done my performance, and it sounded good, so I left it. But it still sounds good like this. Not like that, it doesn't. The interesting thing about them is that they basically descend down the neck and they follow each chord, and it's the 1, 3, 5 of each chord played backwards. There's your B minor. So your 1, 3, 5. And it just basically follows down the neck of each chord playing the 5, 3, 1. And the harmony is 3, 1, 5, which is kind of interesting. The same notes. And so that's kind of interesting as well. And they just descend down following the chords. So anyway, I hope you found that interesting. I found it interesting, working it all out for myself. And I'm going to stop there. And we're down to number 7. We're going to get this thing done in the next couple of months. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed my performance and my little talk. And this is going to be a long video, I think. And I hope you're well in your little guitar corner of the world. And we're going to see you next time. You guys take care of yourselves. Ciao.